Hello and welcome to Trial by Stone, the Dark Crystal podcast. I'm your host, Phil. Just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to our live show. It's been a while since we've done these live shows, but of course, special occasion, of course, being the Thra-Athon this weekend as we sort of, this this Thra-Athon is kind of all about, celebrating 38 years of the Dark Crystal, sort of the film that started it all. And of course, with me is my co-host, Sydnni. So, Sydnni, how you doing?
I'm doing well, prepping for the Christmas break. Holiday season is upon us. Time for good old Yule.
Yeah.
And so yeah, getting in the spirit. And I'm excited to talk about the movie sort of in a new context because I know we've been talking a lot about Age of Resistance the last several chats and sort of focusing on
Yeah.
that. And then, doing our interviews and whatnot. But it's kind of nice to revisit the original reason why we're all here ultimately, the thing that unites us.
Yeah.
Although there are a lot of new fans who discovered it through Age of Resistance. So I kind of
Oh,
forget
yeah,
that
yeah.
sometimes a lot of people kind of are discovering it. And
Mm.
maybe there are people out there, I'm sure there are, who still even haven't even seen the film.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
brings me to the first thing that I want to touch on, which
Hmm.
is that Netflix took the movie off. I don't know if it's
Yeah, I
going to
know.
be like a permanent thing or if they're just
A
doing it
temporary. Yeah.
like, yeah, because it's the anniversary of when the movie came out and they just kind of unceremoniously took it off so we can't watch it during
Mm.
Thra-Athon on Netflix. Now we have to, I have the Blu-ray obviously, so it's not so much of an issue for me, but like Netflix isn't going to get that data from me watching the Blu-ray obviously. So
Yeah.
that's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mostly for me because I think new fans should be able to watch the movie, and I think a lot of people now are going to be discovering Age of Resistance, and if they've never heard of Dark Crystal before and they're into the show, they don't have a way to immediately know that there was a movie. They can't see it recommended on
Mm.
Netflix and be like, oh dude, there's more. That's so
Yeah, I know.
little.
Yeah, because it was very it was because I did remember like when I did took a town like I think like a couple of years ago, um, and like it went to Amazon and then so went back to Netflix. So I have no idea whether this is like because with the film where it's just being on a rotation kind of thing where it goes to
Yeah,
other streaming services. But yeah, I mean it is still a bit, yeah, it's still a bit of a
it's
bummer
crappy
though that,
timing more than anything
yeah, oh yeah,
else.
that totally,
The
yeah, yeah,
timing of
yeah.
it's
You
just like,
can't, yeah, you can't
why
get all your dark
now?
crystal, all your dark crystalness on Netflix. It's like it's just
Really,
a show at the moment. Yeah,
really
yeah.
kicking us while we're down, man. They can't let us have
Well,
nice things.
I know, and that's, I mean, that's what Mandy just said, just to kick us when we're down. So, Elian,
Legit.
yeah, Elian says hi. So, hi, Elian. Um,
Oh yeah,
and of
bonjour.
course, yeah, oh, and I will have to say her fan art that she did of the Mystic, um,
I don't even
especially for the
feel right
Thra-Athon was a great
calling
image.
her art fan art
Oh
anymore.
no,
Like
I
it
know.
doesn't
I mean,
even
it's probably more than just fan art. Yeah, yeah,
like it is
it's incredible.
technically like she's not licensed yet, but like that's
No,
kind of a crime. Like it feels
oh
like legit
yeah,
art.
oh yeah,
I
totally. I
mean,
mean, if
obviously it
there
is
was,
legit art, but I mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel
yeah,
like
it's a next
it needs
level
a
up.
better
Yeah,
title than fan art. But
absolutely. Yeah,
honestly,
like,
I feel
yeah.
that way about so much of the fan art though,
Oh,
especially
totally.
with
Yeah.
judging all of the fan arts and everything. Like
Yes. Yeah.
they're all just so high quality.
Oh,
This
amazing.
fandom is just so talented. They're
Amazing.
so
Yeah.
talented.
I know. Especially like all the with the Great Conjunction, they did have that fan art holiday themed contest, and of course the winner. I know. I just realized I probably should have gone to their website and screen share some images of the things
Please.
that the Great Conjunction at the greatconjunction.com. Because yeah, I mean the winners like of like the fan art
Yeah.
was just incredible.
Yeah.
You had one that did a fan art of a good old Skekra,
Oh my goodness.
the which I mean I think I didn't realize because I think I actually bought the last one of the last sort of large size
Like
shirts
the
for
last one.
of the Look Upon My Wonder.
Ooh.
I know.
Oh,
Hang on, let's
that came out
screen.
so good.
I'm going to screen
It's
share
such
this.
a good design for a shirt. It's brilliant.
There we go. Can you see
Look.
this?
Yeah,
Yep.
I see it.
Yeah. Hang on. Do I
Oh
need to
my
scroll up?
gosh.
There's a whole image there. You seen the whole
Maybe
image?
scroll up a little bit.
There
A
we
little
go.
bit more.
Uh,
There we go.
There we go. Look upon my wonder.
Ah,
So that was the
look
first.
at you.
That was the first prize. Well, the big winner. And then I'll just go to the other ones.
So
The
good.
holiday cards. So
Mm-hmm.
you had
This one,
winter
oh,
cuddles.
so warm and fuzzy. I
Yeah.
mean, would you not love that on a mug? Like a
Yeah. I know.
like a big mug full of
Yeah.
like frothy hot cocoa, and it's got Jen and Kira snuggling on it. Like,
I know.
ah.
It's the best. And look at Fizzgig.
And you know what else? I
Yeah.
love the texture on it. That was because I was
Yeah.
one of the judges for this whole situation. I helped out
Oh, cool.
with some insight. And one of the things I love about this one is just like you can see. I'm sort of a nerd for traditional medium,
Yeah.
traditional media with art. And there's so much great digital stuff out there that's not to disrespect it at all. But my
No.
heart, like my original art training, lies with like feeling the colored pencil on the paper and the smell of the paint and getting it in your hair. And
Yeah.
this kind of evokes that for me because of the textures and the way that the colors are blended. So
Yeah.
it makes me feel all snuggly. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think the last one, I'll pop this up as well. The season greetings, which
Just,
again, I love this one with
yeah.
you have season greetings, the text with the fizz gigs as a reindeer.
And a little cameo with Kermit.
I know,
That's
yeah, a little
the
comment there.
best.
That was
That
a nice little cameo there from crossing over universes, I guess.
like it made me feel
Yeah.
like I kind of wish that the Muppet universe and the universe of Thra could sort of coexist even for a
Yeah.
minute, because imagine if Hup went to like chill with the Muppets for an episode, or
Oh,
if
I
like
know
Hup
that
was
would
on
be.
Sesame Street, even like
Yeah.
how great would
Yeah.
that be? So I'm looking at
I
this
know
and
if there was like a
ugh,
the Muppet Show, on Disney Plus, and like you're following guests, and Hop is one of them.
or Fizz Gigs too. Like if they had Fizz
Fizzkicks,
Gigs on
yeah.
there.
And I was just thinking, I mean, what amazing sketch would be if they had the Swedish Chef and Hop.
Oh my
They're cooking
God.
something.
I would pay actual money.
Yeah.
If they pulled like a Mulan and made us like they charged us extra to get it, I'd be like,
Yeah.
take it. I'm
Yeah.
there.
There
Love
we go.
it.
Yes.
But yeah,
Oh,
this is a really
yeah.
good piece. It's super
Yeah.
festive. I love that the two Fizz gigs are like distinctly, they have two different personalities.
Yes.
Like you
Yep.
could have easily just kind of put the same Fizz gig twice and
Oh
called
yeah,
it a
a good
day,
old
and it
copy
still
and
would have
paste.
been
Yeah.
a good piece. But the fact that there's like one that's freaking out and there's one that's just kind of like,
Yeah, mellow.
great, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So no, it's really cool. I really I really loved the fan art, and yeah, I bought myself a shirt and those two postcards. I think of yeah.
And you're
So
not
no,
going to send
they're
them
just
out to anybody. Like those are for you.
I know, because it's like there's only 6 of them, so
Yeah.
I only got a couple of them. So I'm like sorry, I was just having a look. Hang on, I just want to have a look at some of the comments here. Sean says you're famous. I think it was probably about the shirts, because Mandy said you bought the last one apparently. Yep. Victor Yerrit can pop in the Muppet stage with his Hup Hub. Oh, see, Elaine had the same idea.
Absolutely.
So Sean, he posted Jen and Kira Winter Cuddles has a great texture to it. It kind of reminds me of the illustrations in the If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, and If You Give a Moose a Muffin book series. Yeah.
I used to love those as a kid. I love
Yeah.
those still. Man,
Yeah.
when I taught
Yeah,
first
it is.
grade, I used that book all the time. So
Yeah.
totally.
Sorry, I just realized I had the screen share on going through the other sides. It's like, oh, okay, now we're
Let's see
back.
the comments.
I know. It probably might have been a bit weird just seeing, just seeing my face there, just being all, still, the freeze frame of
You
me.
got your festive sweater on.
Yes, I did. I know.
Quarantine hair anymore, so.
No, and no, it's like here in Melbourne, we're sort of, I mean, we're doing good. I mean, yeah, I mean, the last sort of 3 or so months, we were in pretty heavy lockdown. And yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it was pretty hard. Like, but we sort of got there in the end, and like we're doing okay. Like we've had, I think we're 51 days in with no community transmissions, so
oh
that's
my goodness.
pretty much
I wish I could
that's
say
a
the
really. I
same.
know. Yeah, I know that all the things.
California's a mess. It
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
mess.
I know
Cannot stress that
it's not
enough.
good. No, no,
Don't come
it's not
here. Do
good.
not.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, I had heard news, of course. Yeah, when I woke up about with the good old people at London, or England. I don't know if it's the whole London area or England. Yeah, so I know with this whole thing, it sucks, and yeah, just the important thing is just to
The darkening is
stay
not
safe
quite
and
over.
well. Yeah, yeah,
We keep getting
yeah.
glimmers of hope, though. I mean,
Oh yeah,
not to
yeah.
get political or open stuff up
Oh
or
no, yeah,
anything, but just to generalize, there are glimmers of hope, and the fact that there are a lot of countries who are really getting it together is super hopeful, and the fact that
yeah.
there's scientific advancements on the horizon, and we're getting closer and
Yes,
closer. So fingers crossed, and people just need to do their part, and
yeah,
plenty
absolutely.
of us are, but not enough Californians are for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
know we're
I know
not
what
the
you mean.
only
Yeah,
state. I know there's a lot of states
yeah.
right now that are a wreck.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Like I mean, for us in Australia, I mean, it's more at the moment with New South Wales. Their
yeah.
sort of cases have sort of increased quite a bit. So I think they might be going into. They hadn't been in a strict lockdown. They've sort of been a general lockdown, but I think from sound of things, I think they might be in a bit of a tight lockdown soonish. But I'm not too sure. So it's like
No,
I'm just
we're all the
speculating.
way
So
locked down right now.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It
we
is. It
are
is. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
hunkered.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm venturing to the forest tonight. We're heading for our holiday trip. We go to
Mm.
my family has a ranch up near Yosemite, very very isolated.
Yeah,
That
that's
town
good.
is actually handling the cases really really well because it's such a
Oh, that's
small
good.
town and everybody's really like dispersed on their own like 40-acre ranches and stuff. So
Yeah,
just gonna hunker down there for the winter and live amongst the trees for a bit and stay away
yeah,
from humanity because it's not doing it for me out here in civilization right now.
yeah, yeah. Actually, sort of thinking about that, I mean, with the sort of restrictions that have been lifted a bit, myself and my wife, we've been actually going for walks on weekends. I'll try and do like a little hike, and
Hmm.
we, go out sort of towards the woods, sort of in rural parts of
Yeah,
Victoria. So that's actually been kind of
nice.
cool. At least being able to sort of go out there and just have a little walks and just
Yeah,
embracing the nature of it
it's
all.
a great time to get in
Yeah.
touch with your inner agra right now. That's when I understand why people are still so like anxious to get in the crowds right now because
Oh yeah, yeah.
there are trees and forests and go find the song of Thra during this time and
Yes. Yeah.
just
Yeah. When you can. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
anyway.
So Jess says, "Yay for Melbourne! So grateful that we're out of the darkness."
uh,
Yeah, and let's hope it's that way.
Bless.
Yeah. And Mandy Jones, who says, "Have you seen Becky Anderson's Darkened Christmas card? There's, have you seen this?
Oh,
With
yes.
where where can I find it? Is it hang on. I actually haven't
I
seen it.
did. I did see
I
that.
genuinely want to see this Christmas card.
It's lovely.
Ah, sorry, I'm looking
Share
at
it.
her Instagram.
Once you find it, share it. Yeah, I was gonna say Instagram is where I saw it.
Wish I can get a full.
I adore
All
her
right,
so much.
I'll just share the share screen, and I'll share my screen. Hit share. There you go. Look at that.
Okay, talk about
Oh
something
wow.
that would make a good t-shirt. Like
Oh yeah.
I would
That.
wear that all the time.
Oh no, it is. That's so cool. I love the fairy tale of Domrak. That's a title.
It's like
A little piece I
it's a
drew for my
Christmas
cards this
tree
year. Merry Dark and you. Yeah, yeah. It's shaped like a Christmas tree. I like how the you got the three
hmm
suns where it's like
or moons, but probably
ornaments.
suns.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That is awesome.
Merry darkened Yuletide. Amen to that.
I love it.
Ah,
I
yeah,
know. So
it's
much
great.
dark crystal goodness.
And she
But yeah,
has a
that's
coloring book out now that she just released. It's all mermaid themed. I kind of, how great would it be if she did
yeah.
a dark crystal one, like a
Oh
coloring
yeah,
book of
yeah,
DEET? If she just did a bunch of
yeah.
DEET drawings,
I know.
Give
So you can.
me content.
So
I'm taking
yeah,
my money.
we'll give her the shout out. So yeah, you can check out her Etsy page. We Sleep Bee Crafts. But if you just search Becky Henderson and go to her Instagram and yeah, because I mean even these prints that she did, she's still selling those. The dark and deep, and they're amazing stuff. So yeah.
She's so multi-talented. I actually just recently binged that show she's on, Dairy Girls.
Ah,
I
yes,
had never, I hadn't heard of it until she started talking about it on her Instagram, and I was like, oh, she's on a TV show. So I started watching
yeah,
it, and man, that's so good. It was a really
yeah,
cute show, and she has a smaller part. She's not one of the main characters, but she's hilarious when she is featured. I don't know if any of you guys watch Dairy Girls, but it is still on Netflix. It hasn't been taken off yet, unlike some other things.
yeah.
Netflix.
So I was
You
just
can
saying.
watch Dairy Girls.
Oh yeah, Dairy Girls is definitely on Netflix. Yeah. I haven't actually seen it. I know my wife has. But it's
It's really
something I've
funny.
been. Okay, yeah. I'll have to give it a watch.
And it's not just funny, it's
Yeah,
also, other things, and it's about, a really
yeah.
memorable point in history.
Mm,
I was really little at the time, in the time period that they're emulating. I wasn't in the same
yeah,
generation as the girls in the show, but I did kind of like vaguely remember, learning about it later. And this was really interesting to sort of go back to that time period, and 'cause it's set
yeah,
in the 90s. And the 90s, it was interesting to see what the 90s, what
mm,
it was like growing up in the 90s in Ireland
yeah,
as opposed to in California, because there
yeah,
were a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. And
yeah.
um anyway, it's
I
good.
know.
It's good. So go support Becky Henderson, because in a way it's
Yeah.
like watching Deep somewhere else.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I was just having a look. It's actually not on her Etsy yet. The cards. So,
Well,
Mandy says too late to produce and purchase, but so perfect for this year. I
yeah,
mean, even if you just get them now and save them, save them up for Christmas next year.
yeah,
I would yeah. So that is very awesome stuff indeed.
yeah.
Oh wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I guess the main reason why we wanted to do this today, since it is the 38th anniversary weekend of the release of The Dark Crystal, the original film, we kind of wanted to look back on the experience of watching the film, for the first time. A lot of us have different experiences of when we all watched it. A lot of us grew up with it, watching it our entire childhoods. The first time I saw it, I was 4, and I've been watching it my entire life. A lot of people are old enough to have seen it in theaters and remember actually 38 years ago when it came
Mm,
out. And so we kind of wanted to chat about like what our perspective on the movie is now compared to before Age of Resistance, because in a way it's kind of a different movie when you watch it now, because you have so much more context and so many other things to consider. When you're watching it, it's just, or maybe it's not to you. And to those of you who are watching, we kind of wanted to get people to sort of sound off and share with us their thoughts. Like, is the movie any different to you now? Do you love it more? I mean, I'm sure most of them are like, I love the movie even more. Or do you have, I know a lot of people had a lot of questions that maybe were answered by Age of Resistance, or maybe more questions were raised about the movie that you still feel like need answering.
yeah.
So what do you think, Phil? When I know you grew
Yeah.
up watching The Dark Crystal too as a kid,
Yes. Good
much
old
like I
VHS.
did. So tell us
uh,
your story.
yeah. So I did actually watch the Dark Crystal on Friday night. So of course it's Sunday morning here in Australia. So yeah. So it's actually it was great actually rewatching it again, because I hadn't watched it for a very long time. It might have been since maybe either late last year or early this year. Um, because I definitely remember watching again, like, after the 10 episodes of, that weekend, of watching 10 episodes of Age of
Yeah.
Resistance. And
Yep.
then I think a couple of weeks later, after all that processing of that show, and it's like, all right, I'll actually put on the Dark Crystal now. and yeah, it's sort of been good actually re-watching it. And of course, watching it in the good old 4K, the 4K Blu-ray or Ultra
Oh my
HD,
goodness.
which
Yeah.
is yeah,
It's the
like watching
best.
again, it is the best way to see the film. There are a couple little things I'm sort of like, I don't like about it, which I mean that's for another time, but they're very, very minor things. So
Little
which
film editor's critique.
yeah, it's a film. I mean, I'll probably talk about it later, but it's like very minor. But I'm like, it's one of those things. I'm like, oh, if Henson could just fix this for the 40th anniversary, like if they re-release it,
For those
that'd
of
be
us
that.
who like
I know,
look at everything.
I know. So I'll get into that later. But for me, I think the biggest thing, rewatching this, and I'm going to was to do with Olga. Um, and one of the things I don't know, can you see the full image of
I do.
yes of her
Yeah,
eye?
it's
How we sort of
yeah.
introduce her for the first time. Um, so I'll get into the next one. I'll get
I
to
have a
a good
little eyeball.
photo.
I almost
There
was
we
gonna go
go.
grab it. I have a little eyeball on my display. I was gonna
Yeah.
like
Actually, I mean that was actually a cool thing that they did that with the show actually. That they actually used her eyeball like in Age of Resistance. I think it was at episode 7 or 8. It's one of
when she
those
put it
things
on the
on
little
the little
guy.
thread error, and
Yeah.
yeah, and sort of goes in and sees what's happening at the Castle of the Crystal.
Yeah.
So I actually think looking back at that, I thought the writers actually they must have had a lot of fun trying to incorporate her eye a bit more. That
Yeah.
it could just do more than just her holding it in her hand. That a threader can actually you can go on a threader and it could actually travel pretty
Yeah.
far away,
It was
and
awesome.
yeah, so that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, the one thing with Olga is just the way that she is. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, the way that she is compared to. I just want to check the. I think the sharing thing is still showing just the image now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, cool. Um, it's just when you multitask, and you go alt and
hmm
tab and looking at my notes and all that jazz.
No,
So yeah,
I just see Albert.
yeah. But
I do agree.
yeah. So yeah, with Olga, it's sort of that she is very different at this point in
hmm
time compared to
Yeah.
what she was in the show. Because I mean, in the show, she's very knowledgeable. I mean, yeah, it did take her time to sort of figure out what's going on, but then sort of she comes back, with the Song of Thra. That's when
Yeah.
she was able to reconnect with Thra and
Yeah.
sort of has ideas, where to go from there, and
Well, we see
give.
more of what she's
Mm,
capable of
yeah.
in Age of Resistance. We just see
Yes.
more of her like abilities stretched out, and
Yes.
it's almost too like to do a Star Wars comparison just because it's on the brain. But if you look at Yoda in Empire when
Mm,
he's 900 years old, and he's seen it all, and he's jaded, and he's bitter, and he's full of regret and sadness, and
yeah.
but still every bit as wise, if not more so, obviously more so. But then compare him to like Episode 2 in Attack of the Clones when he's um, you know, flying around with a lightsaber and kicking all the butt, and he's still Yoda, but we're seeing him in a new light. And I feel like this was a similar situation where we got we were introduced to Agra in the movie, and for a lot of us as kids, like I know a lot of people say that like they were freaked out by the Dark Crystal when they're a kid, or
Mm,
like a lot of people who aren't into it are like, I don't
yeah.
like it because it scared me as a kid. I have heard um, from some of those people about how Agra was one of the things that freaked them out as a kid because she's just
Mm,
really loud and abrasive and like and
yeah. I know.
kind of
Yeah.
scary looking. And they're like, I
Think I'm
couldn't
going
tell
to
if she
eat
was, if
you.
it was a, yeah, she was like a monster. And
Yeah.
but but then for those of us who were like intrigued by her, it's we knew that she was super wise. She knew way more than anybody else did. Why does she know so much? um you know, what's her deal with looking into the heavens and, you know, mapping out the universe and everything. And there was just a lot of like questions raised about her, right? Like we can see and we get the idea of who she is, but we don't really know like
No.
why.
Because that's the interesting thing. Like, if you're looking at the perspective of just the film on its own,
Yeah.
all you know about Olga is she's a keeper of secrets, and that's about it. And I think that was a cool thing. Like, when I did the book, like with the World of the Dark Crystal, probably back in the day, that like the books like that, they're actually like able to expand these characters. Like, well, you know, you think Olga was just like this crazy, you know, great character,
Like a hermit.
like a hermit,
Like Yoda.
or a Yoda, a female Yoda. But she's actually more than that. I mean, she is Thra, you know, the Mother Earth, and so that's that. But I do find it interesting that, to me, I feel like that she is very different to what she is compared to the show. And I'd be curious about, because I mean, it, like, she was surprised to see Jen, and you know, she's smiling. She's like, you know, are you a Gelfling? It's like, well, of course, you know, you should know that, you know, you are Thra, you know.
Yeah.
And
But once you have the
but
context of what she's seen in Age of
yeah,
Resistance and the
I know,
fact
and
that
what
like
she's
she
gone through.
witnessed, it makes it so much more heavy when you rewatch the movie. Like, oh, now I totally understand why when she sees Jen, she's like
Yeah,
tripping hardcore about it. Because
yeah,
like, you know, he's and Kira are the last of the Gelfling when you watch the movie, but you don't like understand the full scope of what it would be like to be somebody who fought alongside them and was there and witnessed it firsthand and like tried to stop it. And
yeah,
so there's just so much more weight to Agra now. When you
yeah,
watch the movie, like you get why she's so bitter and crabby,
yeah,
because like, yeah, she's cantankerous in Age of Resistance, but you have to, when you make the comparison, like you can see that she's less bitter and crabby. She's more like agitated with what's happening. She's regretful that she checked out and went to the, you know, check out the stars for so long, that she missed a whole bunch of nasty crap happening with the Skeksis. So she's, you know, she's spicy still, but she's
oh
not
yeah,
like bitter and jaded and like,
no,
I've been through it and I'm just ugh, like the sadness. There's not as much, like we see her experience the moments, like the moment, you know, finding the Song of Thra, you know, holding the dead Pluffum in her hand, and that genuine,
yeah,
like, you see the moments when that grief and that regret that we see later in the film are shaped. Whereas when we've only seen the film, we just know, like, man, she's pissed. What she's so
yeah,
crotchety and mad, and you know, we only know that she has this energy, but we're not fully sure why. And now it just makes perfect sense. And credit, of course, in addition to the writers, duh, but also to Donna Kimball, for she really fleshed that out and like
oh
took that into consideration.
yeah,
She talked in both of the interviews we've done with her. She talked about how finding her version of Agra, it wasn't like just redoing what was done in the movie. She had
no,
to give another flavor of her that we
yeah,
only see hinted at in
yes,
the movie. So now we're
yes,
seeing a totally other version of her that is going to become that version that we were more familiar with. And
yeah.
I mean, she killed it.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
nailed it out of the park. And also, I mean, yeah, I mean, as we sort of hinted, there'll be a future. You know, we got some episodes in the can with Trial by Stone, and yeah, one of the interviews is with Glop, the Glorious Ladies of Puppetry, which Sydney hosted herself, a ladies show. So, that was great with Donna Kimball and Louise
Oh my
Gold
goodness.
and
Ladies'
Palestinians.
night.
So yes, yeah. So that been working on that, and it's really really great stuff. So I think that's
I'm
one you
really
don't.
excited for you guys
Yeah,
to hear that interview. It was just
yeah,
super great.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Really good
Donna's a
stuff.
hoot.
Yeah,
Louise Gold is like everything you've heard about Louise Gold is true. Everything, all of it.
yeah. A legend.
um, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
everyone who got had the privilege of going to the Great Conjunction, which I did not, because I'm
No,
a
neither did I.
uh,
Yeah.
broke Californian. You know, take a
Yeah.
shot every time Sydney talks about how much it sucks to be a Californian. But one of those reasons is because I didn't get to go to the Great Conjunction, and
Yes.
everyone who went just went on and on. Like the number one thing they talk about is Louise Gold was just like, she made everyone laugh, she made everyone cry, she's so insightful, she's the boss. And it's
Yeah.
true, every
Yeah.
little bit of it. If you get a chance to meet Louise Gold, do it. She's
Yeah. I know, the best. Yeah. And
brilliant.
and especially like her speech at the Great Conjunction, which I think you can find that on YouTube. I think there is a video with that. So if you go Great Conjunction on
My
YouTube,
eyes watering
Doc Crystal.
already. Like I can't even think
Yeah.
about that speech. I can't. I'm
Yeah.
like, I just did my makeup. Can we not talk about
Oh,
that?
okay. Well, we'll have to move on. All right. So I want to look at the comments. I know there's been a lot of comments. It's sort of like I'm trying to catch up on these comments. So Sean says, I think Skeksil feels much more villainous. We just see how we see just how he's clever and ruthless he
Yeah,
is.
and we understand his
Yeah.
role, like who he is
Yeah.
in relation, like what's his job, because all of the Skeksis each have their title and like their role that they
Mm.
play, what they have to offer, to the collective, sort of what
Yeah.
their role is. And in the original movie, we don't really get who the Chamberlain is. Like
No.
we like him because he's a
Mm.
really strong character, and like we love to hate him, and like he's just very strongly characterized. But in the grand scheme of like who he is in relation to the other Skeksis, we don't really have a lot of context for that just from the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas in the show, it's like right off the bat we're seeing what specific role he plays. Like he's the sleazy politician of
Mm.
them all. He's the one whose job it is to go out and like plant all the gaslighting seeds to
Yeah.
society. And like
I
he's the politician, he's the
yeah.
media,
I
he's like, ugh,
I
it's
know.
wonderful.
I kind of feel like that pretty much, over 1,000 trying that. I reckon he's probably had a rotation of like of rivals, amongst the Skeksis and stuff. So it's like
Oh
it's
yeah.
not just like Skekvar or Skekang. I reckon he's probably gone through a rotation of like, maybe he doesn't get on well with the Goromond or with the ornamentalist, and probably even Skekmal to extent, because he was kind of
Yeah.
freaked out when he saw him like in episode
Yeah.
4. So so in the movie, that's the thing Elaine just posted. So in the movie she literally has Skekmal's clothes, which that was like, that was a big sort of piece of the puzzle. Like when we saw at the start of the show that she's wearing these different clothes, and it's like, oh wow, this is so weird. She's not in her red clothes, and then come episode 10, and then when she reborns, it's like, that explains it all.
And how interesting is that all
Yeah.
that time she never put something else on. Like she
Yeah. Yeah.
stayed in that form. It was like, this
I
is who I
know.
am now. And she never like went anywhere else after that. She
Yeah.
stayed in the Skekmal outfit.
And yeah.
Wow.
And it actually made me think about like with Dark Crystal canon, if we want to go that direction, like with Creation Myths, she has the red clothes that she wears like the whole time. So I know where there'll be a future edition where they'll have to change her clothes like in every. No, I don't think they'll do that, but it's funny to think about that. Like,
does Agra do laundry?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Maybe she did have a
Good short
spare
film. Agra
change.
doing
Yeah, I know.
laundry.
Yeah.
Turn the heat on too high.
Yeah.
I shrunk
just,
my pantyhose.
yeah. Let's
stuff.
see. Let's see.
Never mix your colors and your whites.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Donna did a good Billy Whitelaw impression of Olga. Yeah.
Yeah, much better than me. I'm terrible. Don't listen to me. But yeah, I guess the next time we chat with Donna Kimball and be like, can you just do a little bit for us? What would it be like if Agra did her laundry? Could you just riff on that for a second? Because just humor us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was just having a look of other things, my little observations. And actually, someone made a note of this, which I was like, oh yeah, they actually have a point. So I'm going to share the screen. Of course, the Wall of Destiny.
How many times
And
in our life do we examine this wall? Do
I
we zoom
know,
in on this picture and like,
and I
is
mean
that
that
a beard?
I know. Which I'll get the next images to pop up. But like, yeah, someone actually made a comment. I don't know who it was. Sorry. But they said, yeah, I mean, the Walt Disney isn't so ancient. If we're talking about the timeline between Age of Resistance and the show,
Yeah.
it seems, as far as what we're thinking, it's probably the timeline between those two films are much closer.
Yeah,
So
it
they're
looks
probably
like
like
an old
30 to
artifact.
50 years. Yeah. So you think this is
But it's
really
not.
old, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
So if I look at the thumbnails, I'll bring down here we go, some more images. So of course with the bearded Gelfling, and I mean, that's a big thing, is that this is I mean, if we're talking about bringing back Dark Crystal back, the Henson from the
Talk
Henson
about
Company,
this.
this
What is
was
this?
yes, the Wall of Destiny was what started sort of bringing it back. What's this wall all about? What's this backstory?
What's it for?
Yeah, and just looking, yeah. I mean, I just love the Wall of Destiny. I would love to see the actual prop for it, like
That right there almost
yeah.
looks like one of the threaders. I know it probably isn't, but like the little, if you go up a little bit into the,
Yeah,
I
the
can't
next one.
show you, but no, where you just were.
Oh, okay, where I was,
You
yeah, yeah.
look like up and to the left. It looks like a little like butterfly shape right here. You notice how it kind of looks like those sort of like
Yeah.
flower petals that the
Yes.
you see
yes.
that? Like that's, it's probably, not, but I can't help but
Ooh.
we have more context of things to make those connections with when we see familiar shapes.
Yeah.
That was, the brilliant that in Age of Resistance, even just using shapes that we as Dark Crystal fans will recognize, and even though it might not necessarily mean this is concretely that, it still evokes it. It still reminds us, like, we have context now when we look at these shapes and these images to be like, where have I also seen something that looks like that?
Yeah.
Which is just kind of what this whole franchise is based around, is like, what does all the iconography mean and all of the alchemy of it all. It just, there's whew.
Yeah, I know. So and I was just actually having a look. One of the things I noticed on this World Destiny, you actually see a ship in the on the right hand side. You actually see a ship in that background. So that I mean, again, just another little bit of detail that I'm like, never thought of that, and that's kind of cool. How they survive. Yeah.
In my head canon, maybe it's maybe
yes,
it's the
yes.
Siphon ship. Maybe it's
that would be cool.
a ship that the surviving Gelfling all get on and go away to chill for a while, and they're not all extinct before the movie. Maybe.
I know, yeah. And just like these Gelflings are presenting like, looks like bowls of food, and I know one's got a leaf. So I think, like,
are they doing the tithing? Like, is it some sort of a tithing ceremony? Like, what's happening here? And
hang on, wait a minute. Wait. Sorry, I just got on a little thought here. Because of course, Power of the Dark Crystal. I mean, that's at a time where Gelflings, I know. But the Gelflings, that's the Gelflings do their tithings. They do their own tithings. What if that's Jen? What if it, I don't know.
Does he sprout wings?
No, I know. Yes.
No, of wings.
I know. No, but no, I think it's definitely more connected with. I mean, of course, it's connected to the prophecy of. With getting the shard and saving the world.
We have more context now.
Yeah.
We have more
fuel
of things to theorize about. Whereas before it was just like we just were kind of making stuff up.
Yeah.
And theories just based on what we know from the books and from context of the movie. But Age of Resistance and Joe Lee's young adult novels all have given us so many more like options for what different things could mean, and even the things that aren't concretely answered, it's just like, well, now we have extra things to consider. Maybe it could be this. So if there's any of that, if anybody has anything like that, let us know. little connections you've made, but that you might have not noticed in the movie. Something that
Yeah.
might have been answered that you wondered about. The Age of Resistance sort of cleared up or made more confusing, depending on
Yeah.
what it is.
So I was just looking at more of the comments. So Eliza Herberman, Herberman, sorry. Yeah, she remembered that during the New York Comic Con coverage, that I think that panel of the Age Resistance panel, she explained about the Gelfling ruins and Wall of Destiny that sort of started the show. Mandy wished it was something that was made as something you could buy, and I was just having a look. The Wall of Destiny showed me the internal question: what were the Gelflings like before the Skeksis killed them all? And Sean, he said they touched a bit of that on the winged male Gelfling on the Wall of Destiny on that trivia that happened. So definitely check that out. Hope it all went well. And they're saying how it may have been a holdover from when the film was called The Chrysalis. So
that's interesting.
And there's also, that's the thing, there's also a figure on the Wall of Destiny that looks like a lot like Kylan offering up a furka.
That's true.
That is true. Yep. Yeah.
And Kylan he's baby.
Yeah.
He's so wholesome and precious. And we must protect him with our lives. He's so I am 100% on board with Kylan being on the Wall of Destiny, because there's no way he's not like a critical figure of Gelfling history. That's part of why, Song of the Dark Crystal, I go back and forth on which of the novels is my favorite one, because when I read through them, I'm always like, this one's my favorite as I'm reading it. But they're all so good. But Song, the one that's from Kylan's
yes,
so close to my heart. I love it so much. And Kylan's one of those characters that I was so relieved made it to the show.
To the show. I know that. I mean, that I was really surprised incorporating the characters from the books, because I thought, Age of Resistance, before going into it, I'm like, it's going to be its own thing. It's not going to be too connected to the books. It's going to, which, had it been that, I'm like, it is what it is, sort of thing. But it was called. Oh yeah, exactly. But I love that they really embraced the the canon, or the things that have been in the books, little references here and there, and so that was really great. I think they do a really good job. That they could have easily just not done any of that, but what, let's actually put this stuff in there, because I'm like, it's the fans gonna know this, So no, which is cool. Mandy Jones says he is the dream etcher after all with Kylan.
Indeed, he is.
Yeah. Maybe he dreams. Maybe it's his dreams that sketch up the Wall of Destiny.
I almost was going to say something that was going to be very spoilery for the books, and I don't know if I should not go there.
Right. Yeah.
There is a little bit of you do get context for the Wall of Destiny in the books, though.
Yes.
In the last one,
in the last one, yeah.
It's not left a total mystery.
No. And
Kylan is an important, he's a dream etcher. He's
yes.
So
I know that it is one of those things I need to. Oh yeah. And for me, it's like, it's been a long time since I've read because I only read it once, and I've actually been wanting to reread them again. Because I want to reread them again, just from the context of having watched the show, some of the differences here and there, which there are, but I'm very curious about how just having the context of the show, reading the books, and that could be another episode altogether.
We did we've talked about it more on other episodes where we discuss Age of Resistance, or I think on Gathering Songs we got into it a little bit, how we could easily, I think, interpret the differences between the books and the show as point of view. You know, the story's being told from somebody else's point of view. And anytime a legend is passed down, you get kind of that telephone effect where different details get emphasized or changed depending on who's telling the story and what that person's perspective was at the time as they went through it. And I like that the canon of the Dark Crystal overall kind of maintains that it's not, everything isn't specifically concrete. It's not, this is how it was and that's how it was. It's everything's kind of molded depending on who the storyteller is. And so I don't think it's that the books contradict the show necessarily. It's just that we're focusing on somebody else's point of view at the time, so the details change accordingly. But it's close enough. It's still, they're not different enough to not go together at all. It's not like they I don't think they contradict necessarily. If anything, it just made me want more puppets, you know.
Yes, we need more Dark Crystal. I actually, I wanted to ask yourself, Sydnni, was there anything that we haven't chatted about, you know, looking at, you know, watching the film and looking at it from your own point of view with the show? Has there been any?
Well, the obvious elephant in the room that I think everybody has touched on since the show came out is now we have more questions of who's related to who's the parents of who is. So in a lot of ways, I feel that Age of Resistance has changed the perspective of the movie in that it's raised even more questions.
More questions, yeah.
But like specifically about the characters. And while I'm personally, and I've said it 1,000 times, that I'm in the camp of not needing to know specifically who Jen and Kira's dad and mom are, I like the ambiguity. I like the you know, not being overshared, because it doesn't necessarily have to be important who their parents are. We know that they're descendants of these new characters, right? But it is human nature to kind of want more answers and to wonder about those things. And so when you're watching the film now, I find that when I watch the film now, the experience is different because I'm asking different questions. I'm not asking the same questions that I was asking before.
We have, I know, just a quote from Brad, it's like, now I have more questions. Okay, I mean, that is the thing, like with, you know, Age of Resistance is sort of like the start of the story, and then we've got the Dark Crystal being the end, and we just don't have the middle. And the middle is like, you know, usually in storytelling is a lot of conflict goes down, which in this case would be the Gotham Wars.
And in a lot of franchises, the middle part, the part 2, is usually either the best of the franchise or arguably the worst of the franchise. Depending on
a certain
how
point
it
of
was
view
handled and who you ask. But it's usually like, at the very least, it's like a really delicate part of the story that you have to get right, because it's going to be divisive. People are either going to be like super on board with it, like Terminator 2 is the best Terminator movie, or it's going to be like an Attack of the Clones situation where you have people fighting about whether or not Attack of the Clones is like the worst part of the Star Wars franchise, or you know, they want to bring up the Rian Johnson argument. Which again, more division, more like so either way, no matter where you sit, which side of the argument you sit on, you're still there's no question that the middle part of the story is tricky and crucial
and very delicate. So that, I mean, that's the thing, like, I mean, with Jeff and Will, and I think they definitely have, you know, the story planned out, so of what they, you know, of how things would roll. So no, it'll be very interesting. And of course, I mean, Lisa Hanson, I know with that announcement of the cancellation, she did said that, you know, they're going to try and do what they can to get the show, you know, to continue on, or trying to tell that story in some form or another. So
I mean, let's hope it's not another like 37 years.
Yes.
You know, I think the odds of it being less of a gap than that are probably in our favor, because we have a lot more resources now. The fan base is much larger now than it was 15 years ago.
That is true.
much larger.
Yeah.
And more generations are interested in it too. And
Yeah.
that's something I think is just timeless about the original film, no matter
Mm.
what, is that there's just so many generations that it has affected.
Mm.
And it affects you differently depending on what age you are when you watch it. Because for me, the experience of watching the film has transformed over the course of my life. Even before Age of Resistance happened, it was a different movie to me watching it at 21 compared to what it was like watching it at 6. Because when I first discovered the film, it was simply because I was interested in the like aesthetic of it, and the fact that I saw the VHS case on the shelf
Mm.
in the video store and was like, what is that? Whatever
Yeah.
that movie is right
Yeah.
there with these like little elf fairy looking creatures and these
Yeah.
monster guys and the pretty purple rock. I want
Give
that.
me that. Yeah.
So I watched that movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And my mom was a movie nerd, still is a
Yeah.
movie nerd.
Yeah.
She would do very well on a podcast with Jamie. I say it all the time. Jamie and my mom would be best friends.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I brought her that VHS, like, this one, we're renting this one, the first
Yeah.
thing out of her mouth was like, oh, yeah, you would like that because it's a lot like Labyrinth, which
Mm.
I was already obsessed with as a wee child. I was super into Labyrinth because duh. And so the first time I watched it, like, was I, as a 4-year-old wee thing watching The Dark Crystal, thinking like about the lore and the alchemy? Like, no, I
No.
was not.
No.
I
We
was
just.
just like, it's pretty, and the
Yeah.
music and and I wasn't even
And the
thinking of
puppet.
them as puppets.
No.
I mean,
No.
I loved
It,
puppet content
oh yeah.
already so
Yeah.
much, but I was just thinking of them as like these creatures, and I love them. And the first time I saw Kira, when she first shows up and takes
Mm.
her hood off, I was like,
Yeah.
I love
Sold.
her.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
be her
Amazing.
forever.
Yeah.
Like,
And
so
and actually thinking about Kira, I mean, there was one of the sort of images I wanted to pop up, which is probably one of my favorite. Just a scene, just of Kira. I'm gonna get the screen share up and going. Where are you? Share screen. Here we go. Sharing this is just this image of Kira. You know, when she's, you know, she sees the Skeksis and she's hiding, you know, around there,
yeah,
and just like it's just such a great scene because of like the twinkle in her eyes. I think it's the eyes that what
yeah,
sells the character's performance. And
yeah,
that scene, like if you watch that scene and even just a slight, you know, movement in her eyes, you know, she's glancing, you know, from right to left
that
is
classic Gelfling
pretty,
side
yeah.
eye.
Yeah. And I think it's also probably the lighting as well, that because it's
Yeah.
so dark that it sort of really sells the performance.
And that's, of course, something you can't get from anything but puppetry. Like,
Mm,
yes, when you animate something digitally, you can synthesize light
mm,
and shadow, and you can synthesize sparkle in the eye and the way that light reflects, and yeah, that is its own art form, and when done right, it can be, you know, moving and beautiful in its own way. But there's something just genuinely unique and just human about seeing something that's physically tangibly there, and there's shadow on that creature's face because there is actually shadow on that creature's face. It wasn't painted there. um and that there is light reflecting in that creature's eyes because they are actually there, and light is actually reflecting on it. And that's what life is. And so there's a life to these creatures that is unlike anything you could get any other way. um and I don't think we would have loved Kira or Jen or any of the characters in Age of Resistance either nearly as much, which is why when we look back at that original, like, animated, partially animated version of Age of Resistance, when they were kind of testing it out and they had the animated Gelfling and the puppet Skeksis, there's a reason why when you watch that you're like, nah, no
yeah.
thank you.
No.
It's not right. um for something else it could work, but for a Gelfling
Mm,
it has to be alive. That has to be real light bouncing off of their actual moving eyeballs. It's the only way. And Kira, I still think to this day is the best puppet. As technologically amazing as the ones in Age of Resistance are,
Hmm.
I think it makes you appreciate the puppetry in the original film more. The context of Age of
Yeah.
Resistance, when you go back and watch the original film now, you
Yeah.
appreciate the artistry even more
Oh,
because you look
definitely.
at
Yeah.
how hard it is in 2018 when they were filming it. They had so
Yeah.
many more resources and so
Oh,
much more
yeah.
money and so much more that they've learned about the art of puppetry and adding, with the different new ways to do it. And they still, like, it wasn't a cakewalk. It was intense. So when you take that context into consideration, then you look back at the movie they made in the early 80s and when they had fewer resources, when they had less money, when they were still kind of figuring it out, they didn't have
Mm.
the things that are common practice in puppetry now were being
Yeah.
figured out then. They were experimenting a lot more. So the fact that they got what we ended up with in this film, like, you appreciate it on another level,
No.
or I do anyway,
Yeah.
appreciate it on another level now that we have something more modern to compare it to, and we got
Yeah.
that behind the scenes insight. So
Yeah.
helpful. Like,
Definitely. Yeah. Like, that's the thing. Like, for what they did, like, even with the original film, like, it's a pretty crazy, weird film, for them to pull it off. Like,
we're
these are all
crazy weird
puppets or
people
yeah, no, yeah, always bet on weird. As Will would
every
probably
time.
say. Yeah, yeah,
Every
exactly. Yeah,
time.
every time. And so, I mean, one of the other little things that, of course, I know we're talking about questions and all this kind of stuff, which I'll sort of go into a little bit, is if I do a share screen. Share the reflector. So,
Ooh,
I mean, this is one of
but
those things where it's like, yep, we've got more questions. So we want to know how.
but we also kind of
Yeah.
understand more too at the same time. Like, we want to know when that was developed and how and why,
Mm,
but like we also kind of can deduce why they did
mm,
it that way, because
yeah.
watching that movie before Age of Resistance, during that part, we're
Mm,
thinking like, well, how come they have the whole reflector thing? Why don't they just look at the crystal directly? Now we know
yeah.
why, because they'll
No, yeah,
friggin'
yeah.
explode. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like it's better to slowly drain them,
Yeah,
rather than, having full exposure to the crystals. So,
yeah,
so that I mean, that's the thing that that'd be really interesting to see that come, if we get more Dark Crystal stories about
yeah.
how how they come, with the idea of like, what, let's actually change this around, and
Yeah.
maybe instead of having these gelflings or podlings in this case looking directly at the crystal, maybe the reflector will probably do a much better job.
Yeah.
And also I think with a reflector, it's like, well, they can just keep reusing gelflings every, they could, have a lot of them have it on a rotation almost, like, so
Yeah.
they still be alive, they can still drain them.
Hmm. And they can
So
make
yeah,
slaves also.
yes, that too, yeah,
Um, Economical.
yes. And I was just having a look. But yeah, I mean, one thing is sort of with the Dark Crystal is, uh, every time when I watch the film, I always say just little, little things that I'm like, I never noticed that before. So I want to pop up some little things. I mean, some are probably going to be like, oh, I knew that, Phil. And one
Maybe
of
not.
which, well, that's the
We don't
thing is
know.
exactly that's why I'm like, I might as well bring this up. If I
Yeah.
screen share it. I didn't realize that Kira is actually barefooted. But then I'm sort of looking at, but then I realize, oh, well, of course, because you see her footprint, that when you see,
Yeah.
Jen, who's wondering, it's like, oh, what's that
Yeah.
footprint there? So that was just something like, yeah, like when I watched that scene with her on the Landstrider, and you actually see her bare feet, and you actually see like, really interesting detail, like with her feet, like these like red
Yeah.
like spots or something like that. So I thought, wow, that's really interesting.
I'm really
Um,
glad you
yeah,
brought that up. Like, really glad,
yeah.
because
Here's another
because
one. Yeah, right there.
so many people have said, like, well, obviously Kira's a descendant of the Vaprin clan. Like,
Mm,
she looks just like Brea.
mm,
And like, Yeah, that's true. But I have always argued that I think, you know, that Kira and Jen both display qualities that you could attribute to all the other clans, because kind of the point of what ends up happening after Age of Resistance and after the events of the books is that the clans merge. They realize, like, we don't want to be separated by clan distinctions. That's something that was imposed upon us by the Skeksis, not something that's inherent to us. We're supposed to be unified and blended.
Mm,
So in my head, by the time Jen and Kira are born, the clans have all intermingled, and Jen and Kira probably
mm,
have a little bit of everybody in them, right?
yeah.
So you know, whether or not that officially gets made, you know, canon, that
Mm,
Kira is clearly, you know, Brea's daughter or whatever.
mm,
Um, I have always argued that there are actually aspects, you can see aspects of the Drenchen
yeah.
clan in Kira's demeanor and in her behavior. And one of the reasons that I thought that was because of her
Mm,
being barefoot through all of that,
yeah.
because there's this huge part in Jolie's books about Naya learning how to walk in shoes, because she's been barefoot her whole life, because the in Sog they don't wear shoes, because their whole deal is, you know, living in the
Mm,
trees and getting in the swamp and like feeling your feet in the mud and like
yes. Yes.
connecting with the earth and the trees. And Kira grows up in a swamp, and
Yeah.
she's like got the whole like one with nature, talking to the swamp creatures, and she's more comfortable barefoot. And there's this whole thing with Naya focusing on how weird it is to learn how to wear shoes to go out on this adventure, and how it felt more natural
Mm,
for her to be barefoot.
mm,
um and I was like, that's just, I remember reading that in the book and thinking like,
yeah.
oh, I wonder if Kira's going to be a descendant of this Naya character, because Kira's barefoot and she
Yeah.
walks
Yeah.
around barefoot in the swamp, and that makes sense to me.
I don't.
And
Yeah.
also her glidey wings, the fact that she doesn't have flap wings, she has whoosh
No.
wings, and that's
Yes.
what the Drenchens have. So um I, you know, people think
I
I'm
know.
nuts. Like, yeah, she clearly looks Vaprin, but like there's Drenchen traits in there, and I'm super glad that we're
Yeah.
looking at her feet now.
Yeah.
So those are things that, you know, other things
So
that are
good.
different about watching the movie is you notice
Yeah.
stuff like that, and it raises yet more questions. But
Oh yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I like that kind of thing. In
Definitely.
my head, they're not. You know, she's not just like half Vaprin, half something else. She's like she's a
Yeah.
little of everything, even if just from like learning those things from other clans. Maybe it's not genetic, maybe she learned it from Auntie Naya, or
Yeah.
um you know, which ugh,
Yeah. I was just having a look
I
at the
don't know.
comments. Mandy, she says Gurjin and Celadon equals Kira.
Oh, oh,
So
oh, oh,
some
that's spicy.
yes. Kira, Sean says, Kira also glides downward, but she doesn't fly upward. Also like a Drenchen. I think her
Not
being
flap
a
flap,
yeah.
whoosh.
So I think her being Vapran and Drenchen makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I know.
Thank
So it's
you,
a lot,
thank you.
lot of things to think about. And again, you know, sort of, it's one of these things I've sort of known about for a while, but I might as well show this. But I do like, you know, with Skeknar, and he has a
Mm,
claw on his hand. So I wonder if it's going to be, you know, if they're going to, you know, if they did more stories about, oh, this is how Skeknar lost his arm or stuff like that. You know, much
yeah,
like when uh with Skektek, how he lost his eye.
yeah, because we
So
have to
yeah,
wonder, does like the darkening have to do with that? Because the whole thing with the
mm,
emperor, like getting all decrepit, and you know, his nose falling off and his fingers falling off and like
yeah,
everything, like, and they all stand around and stare at the crystal all the time, like that's their whole
I know.
deal.
Yep,
So are they all missing parts because
I
of
know.
that, and they're all gonna
Mate, yeah,
eventually crumble to dust, and the
yeah.
emperor just did it first because he was the most like,
First
you know, huffing the
exposed to it.
crystal.
Mm, yeah,
So
I
so
know.
many more theories that are like
Oh, totally.
supported
Yeah.
by evidence now.
Yeah. And also, I was just trying to think of any, I think any other, I mean, this might be the last one that I'll probably just share is with Skektek. And he actually has a crane. Like when he's like grabbing Kira, he actually has this crane. Like I know they had their own sort of sticks and stuff, but this, he
Like a
actually
little
uses
walking
it.
stick, like he has a
Yeah, he
cane.
actually uses it as a
Nice.
walking stick. So you see, like he's got the stick while grabbing Kira, but of course there's other scenes where he
Looking
doesn't
crotchety.
yeah, he doesn't use it at all. So I
Uh-huh.
thought that was sort of interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, all
like
the
with him.
Skeksis are decidedly crustier.
Oh,
And
definitely, yeah.
when
Yeah,
we watched
very,
the
very
movie
old.
before, like growing up, we just think that's just what the Skeksis look like. They're just ugly and crusty. That's their whole deal. But now when we see them in Age of Resistance, and they're not as crusty. Like they're mangled, but they're like they're a little prettier, they're a little shinier, they're a little more Botox than the ones that we're used to. And it's not just because of the essence, because obviously, you know, we see in the movie when he drinks the essence and, you know, gets the collagen treatment for a second and then it goes away. We're like, again, we just assume like it's just the way Skeksis look and they're just trying to like be young again. And like you said, the amount of time between Age of Resistance and the movie is not really enough time for them to get that crusty just from natural order of age. Like it's not hundreds of years. So there is something else at work making them crusty. And now we have that context. We know that they are all kind of sickly and old. It's not just that that's what Skeksis look like. So.
Yes. I was just looking at the comments. So, Leon says, Skeknar got Peeper beetled. So who knows? Jason wrote huffing dark crystal with a big smiley face.
That's
exactly.
what he's doing essentially.
Yeah.
Because then he's like darkening.
I know. Oh wow. So I mean, we've been at this for over an hour.
And we could do it for another 3 if we wanted to.
I know. We could. I could.
Yes. That's what it's like in our family.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like overall, like with the movie, rewatching the movie, I think probably the big conclusion, or you know, the big takeaway is that it still leaves us with more questions.
Questions. Too
many questions. You want a shard? Here.
But honestly, we always should have questions. I think the minute we know everything about Thra and everything about this franchise, that's going to be a sad day if that happens. Because I think part of what makes it so unique in this franchise is that it inspires thought and questions and theories. And if you over-explain and give a concise, concrete answer to everything, I think it stops being the Dark Crystal at that point. To a certain extent, this is what makes it. Because it's almost like we're archaeologists. We're philosophical explorers, sort of theorizing and uncovering clues. And like, that's what makes this fandom special. So I don't ever want that to be fully taken away. I think... there should always be an aspect of that where we're still in another 38 years looking back at this movie and going, oh, what about, did you notice that? I saw that guy's toe. Did we see his toe before? What does that mean? How many toes did he have? Like, why? We should always be having conversations like that. I hope that our grandkids are still theorizing, but that they also get more context at the same time and more questions are raised and the cycle perpetuates forever. Like,
and as Jason says, we're like JJ Llewellyn. So of course JJ, who's the author of that World of the Dark Crystal, and sort of an archaeologist kind of point of view. So I think we're all a bit of JJ.
The much better JJ.
The much better.
My drift.
Yes. You know, we don't play things safe. All right. So
in this house.
Yeah. All right. So Manny says just one more season. That's all I ask. Yeah, I think so too. I think, you know, if we get another season, just able to wrap up the story of things that happen in Age of Resistance and connect the pieces with the movie. I think it'd be great. I think that's a big thing. It's just that we just got this middle part of the chapter that we just don't know. And it is weird. It's weird. It's like, you know, I think I talked about on the podcast. It's almost like, you know, Lord of the Rings. It's like you've read the Fellowship or the Return of the King, but there's no two towers.
Is my favorite. we actually just rewatched the trilogy, and Two Towers. There's something about it, and I've been re-listening to the Two Towers on audiobook, and the fact that I
Yeah.
wanted to listen to Two Towers specifically and not go
Yeah.
back to the beginning,
Yeah.
I it's so good. The
Oh,
second
so
part
yeah.
is crucial. When you get it right, it can be the
Yeah.
best one.
Yeah.
That can be
Because
your
because
vampire. It can be
yeah.
your Home Alone 2 Lost in New York.
I know. Because I actually been rewatching them because they came out on 4K, which which I bought the digital copies of the 4K, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like if you have a 4K, if you can get your hands on 4K TV, and if you can get your
Yeah.
hands on that,
Yeah.
it's a must. Yeah,
Because that
just
HD
oh,
remaster for the
amazing.
Blu-ray was shameful. So the fact
Yes.
that they fixed it is just like, thank you,
Yeah, I know.
thank
Even those
you.
nerdy things like I think Fellowship of the Ring had some green tint
Oh my God, everything was green.
throughout the film. Yeah,
Everything.
yeah.
Like
So
he was Gandalf the Green the
yeah,
whole time. Oh,
yeah. So no,
anyway, that's.
yeah.
I guess we're doing a Lord of the Rings podcast too. So.
I know. We'll probably end up doing it at Lord of the Rings in a couple of years' time. Just discuss about the Amazon series if I ever did that. But
Which
actually,
is
I've been
why I
meaning
think
to
Dark
read the
Crystal
books
should go
actually.
on Amazon.
Yeah.
I
Oh
think
yes,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
bringing that back. I think
yeah,
Amazon should take it.
yeah.
If any of them pick it up from Netflix, I really hope
Mm,
it's Amazon because
yeah.
they seem to have a grip on fantasy franchises and like
Yes.
snatch it up.
Yeah.
Amazon, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So I think we'll probably leave it at that. But again, yeah, for anyone that watched us live, that've been commenting, uh, yeah, thank you so much. And I mean, I always have a blast chatting Dark Crystal.
Me hugging you.
And yeah, and also I'll announce on Sunday I will be posting a new episode of Trial by Stone with Daniel D. Worst, who performed. Uh, the Gotham from Age of Resistance. So we're going to put that up as a little special treat as part of the Thra-Athon. And yeah, and we definitely got a lot more shows to come. Yeah, it was a good chat with him. A lot of fun. And so no, looking forward to having that episode out. And we got more shows in the works. Like we mentioned about the Glorious Ladies of Puppetry, which if you haven't had a chance, watch them, glop.us. They've had five episodes that are 5 episodes are up. I think the sixth one is going to come out sometime later this month. So we'll be releasing an episode probably around the time that the sixth episode is out to coincide that. We got hub discussions, and
if you're not if you're one of the 3 people in the world who isn't watching Mandalorian and who hasn't seen the finale, like go do that right now.
Yes.
Especially because now we know that Jon Favreau loves Dark Crystal, and that he specifically said that he wanted Baby Yoda to look like a Dark Crystal creature. Like
yes, yeah, that was in the making of Mandalorian. Yeah.
So
yeah, so no, it's good.
Now
it's good.
Mandalorian fans and Dark Crystal fans can unite. So
yeah,
it's relevant to talk about that on this podcast. Watch Mando.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I know. It was a great season finale. It was so good. But we won't go into spoilers because maybe another time.
Yeah.
No.
We'll spoil Dark Crystal stuff, but not Mando.
Yeah, I know.
That's out of our jurisdiction a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. We'll sign up. But yeah, again, thank you so much. Stay tuned for more Trial by Stone. Again, if you want more Trial by Stone, we're on probably our website, darkcrystalpodcast.com. That's where we have all our episodes that live there, as well as Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and
check
wherever
out
you
everything.
listen. Wherever you listen to podcasts. Yeah, wherever you listen to
Thra-Athon everywhere. All of those things, all of the polls that Sean has been posting in the Crystal Shard and in Angle of Eternity. Those we really want to see all of your feedback on those awesome polls about the characters and about the future of the franchise and things like that. Like involvement is what makes this Thra-Athon. Like it's okay that we can't watch the movie on Netflix right now, but pop in your Blu-rays, binge Age of Resistance again, hashtag Thra-Athon everywhere, participate on our social media, go to the Great Conjunction page and their website and support, and buy the t-shirts that Phil hasn't bought yet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, from the Great King's Junction
Whichever
store.
ones
So
he left
definitely
in his wake.
I
go
know.
snatch those
Yep.
up.
Exactly. Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep.
do that.
Yeah. So exactly. Yep. So do it.
Otherwise,
All right.
we're
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I think we're all good. All right. No, so thank you. And yeah, we'll definitely stay tuned for more Trial by Stone. See you later. Bye.